everyone, I'm Erin from Red Buffalo Coffee and Tea in Silverthorne, and these are your virtual home coffee brewing classes. Join me over the next couple of videos as we talk about the quintessential elements to brewing coffee better at home. Hi everyone, and welcome to your virtual home cafe with Red Buffalo. Today we're going to be going over the little tips you can do to improve your French press coffee game. I love French press coffee, and one of the reasons why I love it is it's easy to do. I can make it camping, and it's also really good if you have guests coming over. You can make multiple cups at once. So today I have a glass French press, but of course they make stainless steel French presses. They make a lot of other mediums as well, but I have a glass French press here. Other things you're going to want is a good burr grinder. We went over this in our burr and grinder video that you can go back into. And then of course I have my hot water. Now, anytime I'm going into a new brew method, I want to control my variables. With the French press, I want to double check how many ounces are in this and then convert them into milliliters. Because remember, some coffee devices lie and they say it's 4 cups when really they used a 6-ounce cup instead of an 8-ounce cup. So always double check and then convert it into milliliters. Make sure your grind size for a French press is very, very coarse, because the filtering medium on most French presses is a small mesh metal filter. And anytime your grind size isn't big enough or it's too fine, it's going to get through here, which means all those small particles, you get that sludge at the bottom of your French press after brewing, are going to be sitting there in the water longer than your desired immersion time, which causes it to over extract and you get some really bitter coffee. So use a really coarse setting on your grinder. You want these to be about as large as kosher salt, maybe even a little larger. So it's really large particles of coffee here. Also remember to use hot water as hot as you can get it. At our elevation, that is going to be 190 degrees at sea level. That's 212. So let's go break it down real quick to your French press coffee water to coffee ratios. Again, starting with your basics so you can then tweak it just how you like it. We measured this guy, it was 720 milliliters or 24 ounces. And in French press, I typically use a 20-to-1 water to coffee ratio. So when I divide 720 by 20, I get 36 grams of coffee. So use that when you have your scale. And if you don't have your scale, remember that 1 tablespoon equals roughly 7 grams. And remember, volume doesn't equal mass. So one quick tip, when I'm making French presses, I usually try to use a darker coffee than the lighter coffees. The lighter coffees I really like in a pour over. They don't have too long of an immersion time, and so those floral notes really stay delicate. Because of the longer immersion time in a French press, those lighter coffees tend to over extract a little. A lemony note might become too sour. A floral note, again, might just become more sour and bitter. So I really enjoy using a darker roast when I'm using a French press. Today I have our Sumatran coffee, which is from a Primata Guavo state. It's really oily and heavy body, but it's really forgiving for a longer immersion time. So now I've ground my coffee for a really coarse grind. And you can see here, I'm gonna pour a little out in my hand. It's pretty much as coarse as my grinder's gonna get. So kind of like your kosher salt. So I'm gonna take out my plunger and I'm going to put my 36 grams of coffee into my French press here. I always like to shake it flat a little. And then I'm going to fill it with water. Now with my French press, it's just like with your pour overs, you want all your coffee to get wet about the same time. So I fill it all the way up. And this one has 720 milliliters. I'm going to give it a stir. And now we are going to let it sit for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I do let it sit without the press on it. So now it has been our 3.5 minutes. During this time, I've managed to cook an egg, get the kids happily eating, and now I can come back and hopefully enjoy my coffee in peace. So most of you would like, I know a French press, now I just put this on and plunge it. But pause, here is your wisdom of your French press brewing that you're going to get from this, is take off this top bit of coffee here. So you can see it's had this nice bloom because this is a fresh roasted coffee, ground fresh before use. But if I were just to plunge this all down, it would still be immersed in the coffee as I'm pouring it, create a larger possibility of getting sludge and having over extraction. You can use one spoon. I like to use two, and I'm going to scrape off most of the big layer of coffee. And I have my espresso tamp box, but if you just have something nearby, if you're using it for compost, do be careful if you bring coffee a lot, try not to put too much coffee grounds down your sink. The oils in there can start to line and build up over time, and it's not necessarily a healthy maneuver for your plumbing. So there still are some in here, you'll see that, but I just gotten the majority of them out. And so now I can take my plunger and push it down. You won't have any resistance at first, and then just a little bit at the end. If I had kept my grounds in there, I would have had a lot of resistance. And now you get to enjoy your French press coffee. And hopefully you can have a moment of peace to yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in to your virtual home cafe class. We look forward to teaching you so much more about how to make the best coffee at home.